And a good Wednesday to you. I'm Fox 35 Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jayme King. Want to update you as we take a look at the tropics. Things starting to get a little more in the way of active. Our latest from the National Hurricane Center, our good friends down in Miami, showing us over the next 7 days, 50% and 40% respectively for two of these waves that have managed to work off the west side of Africa. It was interesting just yesterday. We thought this secondary wave here that came off Africa yesterday, splashing down into the Atlantic, would be the system that was really flexing some might. But as it turns out, the one out ahead of that is the one with the higher developmental percentage chance here at 50% over the next 7 days. This guy back here at 40%. And all eyes on the Gulf of Mexico now as nothing has formed. This is kind of a phantom thing right now, but a 20% chance of developing over the next 7 days for this area in the western Gulf of Mexico. Now, if anything, it may be a big rainmaker for the state of Texas and parts of the Gulf South. Boy, did they need the rain, man. It is dry out there and hot too. But looking at the overview, you can see that things are now fired up and active. As of right now, the Caribbean is quiet and the open Atlantic as a whole, with the exception of these two features, is also nice and quiet, and high pressure is in control. Now, we talk about the Gulf of Mexico. We talk about the environmental conditions, and boy, is it ever ripe. We're talking water temperatures as of right now well into the upper 80s. There's some spots with reports in the low 90s. So bottom line, we have breached the threshold and now seeing very favorable temperatures in the waters over the east side of Florida through the Bahamas and out here behind me over the open Atlantic. Now, we need some moisture in the western Gulf for something to happen with this potential Gulf system. And right now, what we're about to find is a little energy and moisture moving across the southern end of Florida as we get on into the weekend. All that will stockpile over the western Gulf, and you can see a little bit of a twist and turn there. So the window for the opportunity to develop will be very, very brief, right? Opens up for a number of hours and slams shut as this thing encounters land, whatever this might be. If it becomes a named system, and right now it does not look likely, that would be Emily. It's the next name on the list. And look at all the dry air filtering in behind this. So Florida gets a little bit of a break as we look longer term, as we start to trend dry, and all that tropical moisture has been shoved and pigeonholed, if you will, out over the western Gulf. So that's one of the ingredients we need in tropical weather to develop a system of sorts here. And we need that moisture, we need that energy. And you can see here a little kink in the upper level wind flow here in this Fox model, showing us that little ribbon of spin there coming across the Gulf into Friday and Saturday. You'll see it materialize right here, that little kink right here, and all the moisture filling in. So time will tell, but 20% is 20%. So certainly an area that will be watching for you. Our other Fox model, the bigger overview, shows our two Atlantic systems closer to Africa. The lead one looks to develop here. That's at 50%, or we might have a depression, or even that named storm. Emily would be the next name here on the list, out over the tropical region here of the Atlantic. We call this the main development region between the eastern Caribbean islands and the west side of Africa. So this tends to be a pipeline of sorts for all that moisture and all these tropical waves coming across. This secondary wave looks to take more of a north and northwesterly track. This guy here under the vigilance here of high pressure over the open Atlantic would take this west-northwest track. Time will tell on that, but hopefully some type of recurve, a fish storm, if you will, heading on out into the Atlantic and away from any land. But bottom line, the cap is coming off. The Atlantic is breathing some new life now. We got to keep an eye on that. Looking at wind shear, it looks as though we find unfavorable weather environments for a tropical development through that general area. There'll be little spots along the way where we could get a little spin up, also over the western Gulf down through mainland Mexico and into the Bay of Campeche. We've got a very unfavorable environment there, but certainly quite favorable through here. So we'll see if that times out longer term with the potential Gulf system. Now, as we look at Saharan dust, you can see plenty of it, but we're starting to see this dusty veil here. One, it begins to ease by around now, mid-August. It begins in June in earnest, and then through mid-August starts to thin on out. So as that stretches out, there'll be less dust here, becomes a little bit lighter. So certainly finding some holes in that to allow for some more development here out over the eastern tropical Atlantic. And we talk about the uncharacteristic waters right now, right above normal as far as the temperatures are concerned. And in an El Nino pattern, What you're in right now, you get the warmer waters here, more favorable development here over the open Pacific versus areas around the Caribbean and through the tropical Atlantic with rather hostile upper level winds. But the water is so darn warm right now, guys, that we overcome that with record warm temperatures, and the effects of El Nino are a little bit dampened. So again, time will tell what happens, but the bottom line is that we are in that ramp up phase now. We're approaching the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season right around September 10th. Right now we're about here through the mid portion of August, and up the hill we go with more possible frequent occurrences of tropical storms and full-blown hurricanes. Again, next name on the list will be Emily. As we know, Dawn became a minimal Cat 1 hurricane very briefly in the North Atlantic, and its predecessor, Cindy, Brett, and Arlene. Remember, that certainly was a little bit, I would say, downplayed, but we never really got a lot of magnitude out of these things, a lot of strengthening. So these remain tropical storms throughout their life cycle. Dawn, the only hurricane thus far. Again, Emily next on the list. So again, we'll be tracking, we'll be watching. It's what we do here in the Fox 35 Storm Center. Keeping you and your family members safe is our top priority, so keep it here to Fox, and we will definitely keep you up to date. That's all for now. Have a good day, and again, keep it here to the Fox 35 Storm Team. Depend on us.